let me follow up your question then.
Yeah.
There are specific fees that were imposed upon the city
Right.
in the last term. The garbage
Yes.
collection, the stormwater, the additional 3% franchise fee on
The stormwater and sewer pulled out of thin air, yes.
Exactly. So that sort of fee, are there any of those that for whatever reason, and they're certainly they impact certain taxpayers more than others, are there any of those that you feel could or should or could be reduced or
Yes. Let me get more
or even repealed?
more specific with you. You're absolutely correct. Stormwater and sewer tax, in my opinion, was invented. And this year, for the first time, some of you may know this, you may not, you've seen it on your property taxes, right? You know what that is? You should know, John. It's a legal vehicle allowing to attach a lien to your house now if it's not paid, and many people don't in protest. And the garbage tax was doubled last year, and most folks don't realize it, and I'm paid to track this data. Every answer I'm going to give you is going to be from the standpoint of big picture, what's happening internationally, nationally, and on local level. That's what I'm paid to do. And most folks don't even realize it until I tell them JA has quietly, sometimes not quietly, doubled their rates over the last 3 years. And I can tell you personally that I've got a little 1,300 square foot building I built my firm in a matching building that's sometimes rented, that I don't turn my heat on. I keep it down in the 60s during the winter and up in the 70s. That's part of my interview process when I'm one employee. I'd like to have more, but I'm paying too many taxes and too high insurance premiums. But that's part of the interview process is that, hey, we conserve and preserve, and this is what we teach our clients. And my electric bill in December 2007 was $100. December of 2010, $193. Quietly, without telling us, the JEA has doubled our electric bills over the last 3 years. And I've got it right in my office that has happened to me. Last month, they hit me in my rental, which I'm using as a campaign headquarters right now. All we do is go in and get signs and go out. All of a sudden, 7,000 gallons of water popped up on it, out of the blue. And I called them and told them that's not there. Oh, we'll send somebody to read your meter. I said, I assume I'm going to be able to talk to whoever you send out. No, we'll call you. It's called a monopoly. It's arbitrary. But the key to it is we own it. Even though they got a separate governing board, hey, the council and the mayor are going to have to become much more vocal. Because I can tell you, after 90 days out there with the citizens, that's the #1 topic I'm running into. So yes, I think there are huge issues with the rate of increase that the JA is hitting us. It's absurd. We're back in the 1970s. And that radio show that they're running on Saturday where their employees call in and ask questions for public relations purposes, that is just, it's out of control as an entity in my opinion. And we just built a coal-fired plant a few years ago, and federal government has created problems for us, yes, but now we're talking about building a nuclear power plant. Is that going to escalate our rates again? I mean, I've got huge concerns with that. The garbage tax doubling, disproportionate once again. Is proportionate, it's extents in degrees, and we are way out of kilter, particularly when you look at the 3 counties around us. I do believe that they've gone down on the property taxes over the last couple of years, not up, on decreasing values. So yeah, I've got major problems, and I think that we cannot continue to raise people's taxes, fees, and assessments based on valuations that don't match. And if we're going to raise their property taxes, in my opinion, there should be a cap on what we can raise it. The state of Maryland is doing the same thing, and I'd rather have it proportionally come across the rate of inflation with a cap on it versus disproportionately stunning people, knocking your #1 job engine, small businesses under 20, out of business, almost like happened to me.
We actually have information about what the taxpayers passed almost 20 years ago.
At the very end.
Yes, yes, we do, and in this very county. We'll be getting that to you at the end of this, and we'll probably would like to talk to you about it down the road. But Don.
What is your general view on the granting of sole source contracts for goods and services needed by the city, and is there a specific maximum dollar level above which any contract should be put up for bid?
I would say that all contracts should be put out for bid that the government deals with, but I'm assuming that most of our contracts do go out to bid now. I could be wrong. That's an area where I've got to get further educated, but they should all be bid out, the contract. and whenever possible, going to a private sector company, as long as the efficiencies and the cost structure are there to make it worth our while.
Okay. Conrad?
Where's your
Transparency.
what will you do to encourage transparency and public access to government and public participation in the legislative process?
Well, I think the budget process is the mayor invited me up to his office, and we had some conversations that basically developed into arguments. I basically write financial articles for San Marco magazine. I've written them for the Times-Union, particularly when I was at Wachovia. And in those, I express my opinions candidly. If you look on my website, you'll see some of them. And the process from those meetings and disagreements, he invited me to go some one of the meetings out on the north side to where the public came in and met with us, etc. I thought that was a good thing, but I think the answers were predetermined. And you had your public works director at my table, and I asked him the specific question. When they asked the first question, they said, do you think that this department needs to be retained? Do you think that this department needs to be realigned? Do you think that this department needs to be basically canned, etc.? Well, in my opinion, the first question, it seemed like they already knew what they were looking for. And I asked the public works director, his name is Jeff Beck, he's number 2 public works. I said, Jeff, I said, I can't answer this question. I said, have you got your budget with you? And I said, have you got your head count of these departments we're talking about? He reluctantly, with big eyes, said, yes, I do. And I said, would you mind pulling them out? And he reached down under the table and pulled them out. And of course, John came in afterwards, and we were the last table there, and I was talking to him. I said, to the extent of the information we got available, I said, I gave him the opinion, but transparency, it needs to be literal, particularly from the departments themselves. And I see no reason why the citizens shouldn't sit in and listen to these conversations that we're having with these individual departments, because it's got to get much more specific from everything I've read, seen, and heard firsthand from those that exposure and talking to Jeff. And Jeff's a great guy, nice guy. Enjoyed meeting him, but at the same time, I think it's going to take that type of process for us to get a grip on what's happening within the city's budget. More accountability, more specificity. And that's what I would ask for in the transparency. Just like on the private side.
All right, you've got 3 opponents in your race. You may be going at this all the way through May, depending on what happens. What is it that you feel distinguishes you from all 3 of these opponents and would specifically make you, and not one of them, the right choice for the voters in this contest?
Well, it's interesting. In my humble opinion, I've had several people tell me this that were working with me early on. I think a couple of my competitors have written their, quote, story, if you will, to counter mine. I have no question in my mind. I've explained to you my background. Folks here on this side of town, very, very involved in this process. Like I said, Corky Rogers, when he was at Lee, where I got a scholarship. You ask him if what I'm telling you is accurate in very general terms, he'll tell you it's the tip of the iceberg. I believe that this free enterprise system has allowed me an opportunity. I believe my life's emblematic of what capitalism can do for an individual if they're willing to work for it. And my story, as you'll see in this literature, San Marco magazine, I've known the publisher for years, just sent one of her top writers over, also writes for the Times-Union, Susan Brandenburg, and it in broad strokes tells my story. Well, I think that my story, without question, has got to be what I like to think the city hopes it can become. Someone that came from, let's say, difficult circumstances as a youth, got a hand up, not a handout from anybody, but a hand up from a lot of folks that helped me develop accountability in my life, like Leon Barrett and Corky Rogers. Every time, let me give you an example. In high school, I lived with a sister on Willow Branch Avenue after my family split up. Mother moved to Georgia to marry a guy I'd met one time. Knew it wasn't the right thing for me because I'd only met him one time. And I had a sister recently get divorced, and Corky said, you might have the talent. I was one of 3 freshmen to make his first team to Lee High School. You might have talent to get a scholarship. Stick around. I'll do my best to help you. So